here for OnePlus Armor, and today I'm going to do a quick terrain building tutorial. It's going to be part of our new hobby series called Bits and Tips. So I think in one of our videos, Uki Tuki questioned how we made the tree stands that we use in our bat reps and stuff. It's a fairly simple process, a little bit time consuming, but I'll try to go over it as best I can. So, here's one of our finished products here. Not so much products, but we're not selling these. So basically it's just a bunch of trees, and we have them on little wooden discs. And that's so you can take them off sort of the area that marks what the tree forest is. So it's just that, very simple. It's all made out of MDF and then these store-bought trees. So the ones I use are Woodland Scenics. They're made for model trains and dioramas and stuff, but they're perfect for Warhammer. The good thing about these is they're fairly cheap compared to the GW ones. I have a GW one here. These are nice, plastic. They're strong and sturdy. And, the trees come off so you can put your models down and still know where the area of the forest is. That's sort of where I got the idea to do these other ones. In Canada, the GW trees are $40 and you get one stand. Whereas these Woodland Scenic ones are just as nice. There's no work involved to make them. They come, let me open the package here. They come pre-made. You don't have to flock them or anything. And they have these little bases. They're fairly small though, so it's hard for them to stand on their base by themselves without tipping over. That's why I make these wooden discs and just glue them on. So what I do use for that is MDF board. Just bought it at my local hardware store. There's a scrap piece I'll be using for this tutorial. I think it's 1/8 of an inch thick. You get them in sheets of 4x4. Obviously this one's been cut down quite a bit. They're fairly cheap here in Canada at like the Home Depot. I think it's $4 for a 4x4 sheet, and it's more than you need. Usually I can get like 5 or 6 tree stands out of it, plus the discs you need to mount the trees on. To make the discs for the trees, I use a drill, and with this attachment, so I don't know if you can see that there, these are for drilling out doorknob holes in a door. This one's a 3-inch diameter one, and I just drill it out of the MDF board. And to cut out the space of your tree stand, so the surface, all I do is draw out a pattern of how big I want it on my wood, and then I use this oscillating saw. It's an old one. Just be careful when you're using these. Make sure you have a good work area. A lot of sawdust is kicked up, so maybe you want to work in your garage or outside if possible, just so you're not breathing in all that garbage. Other than that, this is not ideal. If I'm only making like one tree stand, I'll use this, but it's really hard to sort of get around and stuff. I have a family member who owns a skill saw and a bandsaw, which makes it a lot easier and quicker. Obviously, if you don't really have access to that, there are other options. You can use like a little hand saw, although it is more work. Or if you have a really good X-Acto knife, usually like this MDF board's fairly easy to work with. If you have a really good sharp X-Acto knife, you can etch it out and then sort of peel away the excess wood. It's not ideal, but you work with what you got, right? So I guess I'll get right into it. So to start off, I'll take my MDF board, draw out the pattern of the trees I want. Usually I'll just make random circles, but I believe Uki Duki was asking, because he's a Wood Elf player and didn't want to spend, a bunch of money buying these GW trees. So what you could do is just trace it out on here. I'm not going to do that because I don't really need it. I will do it though, just off camera, and have like another one to do. If you don't want to buy the G-dub trees to trace out though, there's a lot of templates now online of just like what this area is, and then you can print it out and do it yourself. Either the way I'm going to show you, the trees we use, or you know, just pieces of cloth to throw down for your free forests. Other than that, the other things you need, sort of just simple basic materials. So I got different flocks here, some sand, just some crappy craft store paints. I think I got these at the dollar store. They're $1. They're just acrylic poster paints. It's what I use for terrain, so I'm not using the expensive G-dub stuff. And then white glue, X-Acto knife, paintbrushes, you know, general hobby things. Basically, once you get your surface cut out, you just base it like you would a miniature. So I'll show you after, but just paint down white glue, sand it, let it dry, and then paint it whatever color you want. So these ones are, you know, dirt with flock on it to represent, like, I don't know, forest. So what I'll do is I will drill out the discs to mount the trees on, then I'll mount the trees and show you guys that. And then show you like the finished product and maybe some tips on what you can do to make it look nicer. So we'll come back after I drill out some of the holes for the tree stands. Thanks, guys. Alright, so we're back. What I did was I drilled out the discs that I'll be using to mount the trees on, and I just cut out and sanded around a forest. This will be the area that marks out the forest area. That doesn't make sense, whatever, you know what I meant. Basically what's going to happen is I'll mount the trees on these discs and then just put them there on your table, and that'll be, you know, your finished forest. Now when you drill it out, MDF is sort of made up of fibers, I think glued together. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just sort of what I get from when I'm cutting it out. So sometimes there'll be like this edge, just like where the drill kicks up pieces. So you want to clean that up. I just use an X-Acto knife, very simple. Just go around, shave off this extra flash, I guess is what it looks like. You know, smooth it out, make it nice so when it does sit on the table, it'll sit flat. You can use sandpaper too to finish it off, but we'll just do it this way. There's this hole in the center. Usually I'll just cover it up with a tree. If not, you can use pieces of cardboard, just glue it down. Once you flock it over, you won't see that anyways. Yeah, other than that, you know, just clean this up. Kind of boring. I'll just do these two. So once you have those done, you want to mount your trees. Now the way these trees come, they come like this. They got this little peg. Then they have these discs that you mount them on. Like so. These are really cool products. You know, you don't really have to do any work to them. If you want, you could sort of paint the trunk of the tree, but you know, for tabletop quality terrain, you don't really need to. I have two types here, so I'm going to be using both. This and then these full trees. A great part about these is, you know, compared to GW, the price of the trees is a lot cheaper. So like this 2-pack of fairly big trees was $14 Canadian, and this pack of 4 fir trees was $11 Canadian. So super cheap. You can get them at your local, you know, train and hobby stores. If not, go on their website. So these products are from a company called Woodland Scenics, and they make a lot of like model railroad and train stuff. Super cheap. You can order straight from them. They do a ton of other stuff too, like flocks and model train buildings if you're into that. Bunch of scenery kits to make rocks and hills and stuff. Really great company if you're into making terrain and stuff. So what I'm going to do is mount the trees. So So what I do is I just super glue them on. Plain old super glue. Just get this in the shot better. And I'll take the disc. I'll do this big guy first. And just glue around, you know, a good amount. And then mount it on your base. Just make sure it sticks. There you go. So it's on. Let's put this aside to dry. For these smaller trees, I'll just put the discs on first. Try to fit 2 on, so I'll space them out a bit. You can put as many or as little as you want on. It's all up to you. Alright, so we'll set those aside to dry. Once they're dry, we'll begin to flock. So once the trees are ready to go, we'll come back with that. Alright, so we're back. The glue's dried on this. So as I showed you before, here's the disc that I drilled out and I glued down the base of the tree. So now we'll just sand and flock it. So it's the same way you do any model, just regular white glue. I think I got this stuff at the dollar store too, because whatever, it's cheap. So just put some out on your palette, as you would normally. And just take a brush, get some glue. Now, a lot of people like to water this down. I don't. I don't think it really makes that big of a difference. Now, you can either go all the way up the base of the tree or not. I'm going to do it for this one, just so it looks like it's growing out of the ground. So you go all around, make sure it's completely covered in your white glue. You want it fairly thick so it picks up the sand. You can flock it right away if that's what you're going for. I like to do sort of a sand base first, and then paint that, you know, earth colors, and then flock it so you got like the patches of dirt showing through. So yeah, just try to keep it off the edges. I guess that's personal preference, but I like to keep it off the edges. So once you got it all glued up, you got some sand here. This is just regular sand you get from the beach. Actually, I think this is sandbox sand. You can get that at your local hardware store. So yeah, just dip it in, make sure you know you got full coverage. If you got a little bit on the stump of the tree, make sure to just wipe it off. You can do that with your fingers or, you know, paper towel. There you go. So that'll be the base. Then you'll do the same thing with the base of your tree stand. You know, just paint your glue down, sand it. Easier way is just spread it out. Then use a brush to spread it. I'm going to need way more than that. You know, keep it fairly thick. I'm just using an old beater brush that I've had around. You don't want to use your good Citadel brushes. Although this is one, but it's one at the end of its lifespan, so I'm not worried about using it for white glue. Yeah, and just get it all painted on. There you go. Get the last edge here. And we'll do the same thing we did for the tree base. So just get it covered in sand. That's not gonna work. I'll do it this way. So just a box lid to catch all my sand so I can put it back after, and I'll just pour this on. Make sure it's good and covered. And then knock off the excess. There you go. So that'll be ready to paint. We'll just have to let that dry. Now I did some desert bases using palm trees made by the same company, Woodland Scenics. So if you're gonna do like a desert one, you don't even have to paint this after. You know, just let it dry and you're ready to go. Have your trees. And they'll just sit on there like that. But I'm gonna want to. Well, these are fir trees, so I'm gonna want them to be a little different than sand. So I'm gonna let this all dry up. Takes about an hour or two. Make sure the white glue sets and everything. And then I'll paint it using. I'm just using sort of a dark brown, then I'll dry brush a light brown. I might do that off camera and just show you the finished product. And after that, we'll flock it. So we'll come back after that's done. Alright, so we're back. We're here for the flocking stage. So what I've done is after that the sand is dried, I just painted this first with a dark brown and then dry brush a light brown. It's kind of hard to see, but you got, you know, you can still see your texture. It looks kind of nice. Looks dirt. If you want, you know, you can glue down rocks or broken trees and stuff to represent, you know, foliage and dead limbs falling off trees and stuff. I'm just going to keep it simple. So what we'll do is flock it. So more glue, which is always fun. And then you just sort of pick out areas that you'll want for your grass or flock to go down. So I usually like to pick a corner first and just no real science behind this part, just sort of artistic eye, I guess. Paint down your white glue. So yeah, we'll just leave that edge. Now I have static grass here. Again, made by this company, Woodland Scenics. So what I'll do is I'm sure the hobbyists will be like, oh no, you're doing your static grass wrong. That's fine. But I'll just do it like this. I think this one's called Harvest Gold. Now, static grass is usually different than flock. You wanna use tweezers sometimes to make it stand up. I don't really care. This is just for terrain. So yeah, that's that. So your flock's on. Just make sure you get as much on as you can. It looks sort of crap at first, even if you're using like traditional flock as opposed to static grass, because the white glue sort of shows through still. You can see sort of that white underneath. That'll go away once it dries, and it'll look, you know, half decent. So yeah, we'll just let that dry up, and I'll come back and show you sort of the finished products. Alright, so we'll see you after there. Alright, so here's another one I did. The other one took a little while to dry, so I'll just show you a finished product. So here it is after it's all done. So you got your MDF base for your tree stand flocked up. So as you can see, the white underneath has cleared away after it's dried up, and you got your flock down. It's just a piece of wood underneath. You can finish it on the bottom if you want. I keep it simple because I made a bunch of these for a tournament, so I was sort of under the gun. I didn't really pretty them up, but like I said before, you can add rocks or, you know, it's Warhammer, so skulls, dead trees, whatever you want, you know, make it look like a forest. And then the tree stands are done the same. So does this one come off? Yeah, it does. So here it is flocked. You have your tree stump, and those just mount right in. You can see there's a peg here. If you want, you can glue them in, but it's fairly sturdy. Like, that's not coming off. The flock might. I'll just peel that off. And then you sit them down. So on your table, that's your forest. And there you go. Finished product is the forest. It looks fairly nice. In terms of cost compared to a GW forest, usually if I'm, you know, smart with my wood buying and not going overboard buying too many trees, for the same price of a GW forest, I can get 2, sometimes 3 of these, which is a steal, especially if you're like, you know, a Wood Elf player. You need like 1 plus D3 if you're using the Acorn Ages. You can almost get that for the same price as a GW Forest. The trees vary in cost, so like this big guy, I think for 2 it was $20. And this is a 7-inch tall tree, so it'll give you good line of sight cover if you pack your trees in tight. Like I said before, you can add as much or as little detail to these as you want, so I kept it simple just because I had to make so many. You base and flock it the same way you do your miniatures, just on a larger scale, obviously. If you can, try to, at least, if money's an issue, try to cheap out on stuff like the paint. So like I said, these are just dollar store poster paints. It's acrylic, works the same as the GW paints, except, you get it in bulk for less. You can do these any way you want. I've done, like I said before, the desert ones, just using the sand and not painting it, and then using palm trees made by the same company. I've done winter ones, so instead of painting it brown, you paint it white. You can use flock snow, although I've had varying results with that, so I'm not really a fan. And then just what I did after for those was I mounted trees like this on the bases, and after the bases were painted and dried, I just gave it a quick spray of white spray paint from afar, so it dusted it instead of clumping all it on. So the green still showed through, but it had that white coverage that looked like freshly fallen snow on the trees. You can also do other things if you don't want specifically a forest. I'm working on some right now. Maybe I'll show you in a later video. It'll count as a forest, but it's using these discs with tombstones mounted on it. Basically, the table's going to be like a giant graveyard, but instead of having a bunch of forest and then these tombstones around, I figured I'll just mount the tombstones on these discs, have your area your area terrain set with this, and then it'll be like a section of all tombstones that will count as a forest in game. But it's just something different on your table. Yeah, I guess that's everything. Be careful when using your power tools. If you're a younger person, maybe you want an adult to help you supervise. I won't get into it here, but if you want, there's a lot of good tutorials online for what tools are good. Like I said before, when I'm cutting this out, usually I'll take it to my family member's house who has a scroll saw. You can get those at your hardware store fairly cheap. I just haven't done so yet. Otherwise, I use this thing, which is sort of old, and it's not the greatest anymore. For making the discs to mount your trees, I use the drill bit used for making doorknob holes, a 3-inch diameter, but you can do it any size you want, I guess. If you didn't want to do it so your trees come off, you could just mount them right to your main base, but this just makes it easier as a game-wise, because it'll allow you to still mark your forest area, but you can place models if they go into the forest. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, learned a little bit, got a better idea of how we do our forests. Like I said, you can go as crazy or as simple as you want. I kept it simple, but this is a good start. Handy piece of terrain. If you clump it up thick too, it's a good line of sight blocker, which Fantasy doesn't really have a lot of, but this helps. So thanks for watching. As always, check out our sister group, the Can Hammer Podcast. They do a bi-weekly, I think, podcast out of Ontario. A lot of tournament coverage, a lot of good content. Right now they're going over, I think the last episode was talking about the new Cane Magic, correct me if I'm wrong, which is good. They got a lot of good insight. They play a lot more than we do at a competitive level, so if you're into that type of thing, they might have better thoughts on the game than us. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.